everything changes, and I think we've learned that a lot over the last several months, and we're seeing that in several industries as well, including the funeral industry. We have Heather Brown. She is with Sterling Ashton Schwab Witzke Funeral Home, which is also a dignity memorial provider. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy to have you here. It does seem like more and more people are treating funerals. I mean, of course, it's a solemn occasion, but it can also be a celebratory, like a celebration of life,
Yes.
sort of homegoing. You're seeing more of that, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We're actually finding that a little more than 50% of people are no longer wanting what we call a traditional funeral, and they want more of a celebration of life. We ask the family, what would their loved one's most perfect day be? From there, then we learn a lot more about that person and the different likes and dislikes and their hobbies and all of those different items. And then we start to formulate a theme or a life story for that person. It really comes down to details, details, details. We make sure that we get as much as they're willing to give us about that person, so then we can make it so that when the family walks into the room, it's as though they're walking into all of their memories of that person. That means setting up different memory items around the room that both come from the family and that come from our inventory, so that we can have that for them.
And what if someone has their own ideas of how they want to be remembered?
I actually did my own 10 years ago because I was seeing different things at funerals, and I thought, this is something that I would really like. My family may not necessarily have known that I really do love white lilacs. I want a custom cocktail. I want all these different things. So the best thing to do is to write those things down, let your family know, because if it stays in your head, then it goes with you. So it's very important to make sure that everyone involved knows what your intentions are. Once you've done that, then you can contact one of our dignity memorial providers and sit down with a professional and write everything so that it's at that funeral home as well.
It makes sense, especially because you don't want necessarily your loved ones to have to plan that in their grief. It would be nice just to sort of give them that one, almost a present.
It really is. And that's what we hear more times than not is, wow, mom really or dad really did everything for us, and we wouldn't have selected some of these things.
Right. My grandfather actually did that for us. So that's why I keep saying is that in our time of grief, he had planned everything in advance years before so that we could just celebrate his life, which is great. And I'm wondering right now, though, it's a different time with COVID-19. How are you doing this, and how has that impacted the celebration of life services?
It's actually, in a positive way, impacted us because it's brought out our creativity that much more, because it's so important to continue to have some of those details and to have those feelings and have everyone kind of helping to memorialize that person. So instead of having it indoors, we've moved it outdoors. We've incorporated things like live streaming. We have social distance, so, all the words that we're hearing quite often these days. And making sure that it's a safe environment, but it's just as impactful as it was pre-COVID.
And what about the repast or the post-memorial lunch or dinner? Is that still a thing right now, or has that been done away with given what we're experiencing now with COVID-19?
That's a good question. Actually, it still is very much a very important portion of our life story. How many times do we break bread with our family and really start to remember and have those good times and memories? It's usually around a meal. So what we've done is we work with a caterer, and we make sure that we're still able to do that, again, in a safe environment, socially distanced, and just there are certain elements of a funeral that you just can't let go of.
Absolutely. And what if someone really is traditional? They hear all this celebration of life and they like it, but they're like, you know what, we just want to do the traditional funeral. You'll still do that, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And we can have those details that I had spoke of earlier. Actually, behind me is is an example of something that we may put out, especially if someone was born in Catonsville and lived here their whole life, enjoyed good wine and good sweets, maybe liked barbecue and a good beer, or football. These are the things that we can have at the visitation or the viewing. So we can still incorporate those elements. And then from there, instead of having a celebration of life, then maybe we go to a church and we have a mass or a different kind of service that's a little bit more traditional.
I love that there's so much flexibility. You literally give everyone exactly what they want and need when they need it most. So if someone needs to get some help with all of this, where should they reach out to? What website should they use?
They can come to sterlingashtonschwabwitzke.com, or they can search dignitymemorial.com to see if there's a location that is a little bit closer to where it is that they live.
Got it. All right. Heather Brown, thank you so much for being with us and giving us all this important information. Of course.
Thank you very much.
With more Midday Maryland right after this. Stay tuned.